मन भावन घर रूहों का, मन भावन घर रूहों का, प्रभु तेरा परम आकाश। यहाँ तू भी प्रकाश, मैं भी प्रकाश, ये वतन भी है प्रकाश। मन भावन घर रूहों का, प्रभु तेरा परम आकाश। मन भावन घर रूहों का। बड़ी प्यारी है इसकी कहानी, सब रूहें यहाँ की रानी। बड़ी प्यारी है इसकी कहानी, सब रूहें यहाँ की रानी। प्रभु तू राजा इस देश का, ये है तेरी राजधानी। संग तेरे राज्य करने की, संग तेरे राज्य करने की, यही होती पूरी आस। यहाँ तू भी प्रकाश, मैं भी प्रकाश, ये वतन भी है प्रकाश। मन भावन घर रूहों का, प्रभु तेरा परम आकाश। मन भावन घर रूहों का। सब रूहें यहाँ तेरी तरह, हर गुण से श्रृंगारी हैं। सब रूहें यहाँ तेरी तरह, हर गुण से श्रृंगारी हैं। सभी शक्तियाँ अपने अपनी मुझ में यहाँ उतारी हैं। तेरे दिव्य गगन में होती, तेरे दिव्य गगन में होती किरणों की महारास। यहाँ तू भी प्रकाश, मैं भी प्रकाश, ये वतन भी है प्रकाश। मन भावन घर रूहों का, प्रभु तेरा परम
Om Shanti, Sister Jayanti.
Om Shanti, Arunavan.
And Om Shanti to everyone. And here we've just finished a beautiful retreat with about 70 plus teachers from all over Europe. And I saw them this morning, all leaving very happy. And gentlemen, I think August is a very auspicious month. It has the Rakhi celebrations. We also have Janmashtami. We have Dadi Kumarka's Day, Remembrance Day. Dadi Prakashmani's Remembrance Day. and tomorrow is Independence Day. Got it. So always we look at what is real independence. And I remember once, Sister Jayanti, you had said that real freedom is being able to do that which you want when you want, and not doing that which you don't want. And that has always been a clear, very clear definition. So any kind of bondage that doesn't allow me to be free, you're in bondage. So thank you, Sister Jayanti, and welcome.
Thank you. Should I begin?
Please.
Om Shanti to everyone. And yes, it was a very beautiful retreat because the theme of it was rather special, living with limitless love. And so right from their arrival, when they were so happy to see the beautiful renovated Oxford and meet each other, I think that was as big a pleasure as seeing the beautiful place. And today you see Arunaben in the living room. It used to be called the Blue Room, but now it's the sitting room. And it's really lovely. And the gorgeous flowers that you see are also blooming all around in the gardens. The gardens are spectacular, I have to say. But this theme was living with limitless love. And so over the whole weekend, it was that experience of being taken care of with God's love. So it was rather special. And the Murli, as always, very special. And Baba spent a long time taking us through the cycle in a very different way. And the theme of the Murli was the personality of purity, and how in the world out there, there's the personality of the body, of specialities, of roles, different things. But the personality of purity is something else. And Baba took us through the whole cycle. In Paramdham, your sparkle is unique and different to all the other souls who also are shining, but your sparkle is special. And then in the Golden Age, again, the beauty of mind, of body, of relationships and connections. Baba spoke about the personality of purity radiating all of that. Then Copper Age and the memorial, the non-living images, and the way that Bhagats, the devotees, worship them following a particular pattern, a special method that's absolutely accurate and has to be adhered to and followed in that way. So tremendous purity and accuracy. And other people are remembered in books. And how are you remembered? You're remembered in the scriptures. All your stories are there. And it might not be with your name, Aruna, but it'll be the story of your life with God. And that too, the scripture itself is handled with a lot of devotion and love and purity. You don't treat it like a normal book and just keep it anywhere, but you'll have a special place that's particularly clean and reserved for it. And so even the way your stories are written, that purity personality shines through that also. And then in the last period, it's really so-called Brahmins. They're not actually following the Brahmin principles, but yet the name Brahmin is so powerful that they are still called at every point of human life, from birth through all the different ceremonies until death. And so the Brahmin has to play that role of performing those ceremonies and rituals. So a very elevated role for Brahmins. And that's just for your namesake, Brahmins. Whereas you truly are the one with the highest personality of all. But two things through all of that. One is the whole subject of awareness. And so when Baba was talking about you, the special, bright, sparkling star in Paramdham, Baba asked us, how long does it take you to get into that awareness? One thought, one moment, or is it an hour? Or does it take all day? to try and get to that stage of awareness of what must I have been like when I was in Paramdham. And of course, Baba's saying that it should take you just one thought. And with one thought, emerge that awareness and that feeling. And as a result of that, you'll have power. It's often comes up in the Murlis, smriti, awareness, and smriti, the power. And so emerge that power, and Maya will be staying away from you. But before I get on to that subject of Maya, I was just reflecting on this whole idea of the cycle and how for Baba, the cycle is totally natural and real in God's awareness. Last kalpa, this kalpa, the present scene, the past, the present, the future, it's all just there. And for us, we have to remember or try and remember. Yes, last kalpa, also this happened. It's fixed in the drama, it's destined. And so when truly the cycle emerges in a very natural way in our consciousness and at all times, then I know I'm in that awareness of the soul. There are other ways that you also can check soul consciousness, but especially in this case, that awareness staying with you all the time. And I noticed this time, and I haven't spent days and days with Brother Bridgemoon in the past. We've spent 1 or 2 days together in Madhuban in the RC meetings. But this time, as soon as he arrived, and he was talking about, well, last kalpa, now this kalpa, next kalpa. He kept referring to that awareness of the cycle. And so I think as we progress in our stage of soul consciousness, the cycle will come alive in our consciousness, and that will make us extremely powerful. And so, yes, when I have an awareness that's strong and powerful of who I am through the whole of eternity, then Maya won't come and I won't have to chase her away, but I'll be having victory over Maya, which is different. Maya comes and I chase it away. It's going to take me time, attention, energy, and while it's still hanging around, and maybe because she's been my friend for half a kalpa, I want to give her company. I don't want to leave her alone. She definitely doesn't want to leave me alone. Today's Murli, the Sakar Murli, very much on that, that as soon as you say, I belong to God, I am going to chase away the 5 devils, the 5 evils. That's the challenge to Maya. And Maya is there on the battlefield instantly. And so, yes, we are challenging Maya now. But earlier Baba used to say in the Sakar Murlis, it's Maya's job to come and your job is to chase Maya away, but no more. Now Baba is saying, you have to be so powerful that you have constant, continuous victory over Maya. And that'll happen through your awareness, your consciousness. And in that awareness of who I truly am, Maya won't be able to approach you. Otherwise, if you say, maybe I'll have victory at the end, it's okay to have a little bit of fluctuation today. Victory is going to happen at the end. It won't. Twice Baba mentioned in the Murli that unless I practice today, at the end, I have no guarantee that I will have victory. Just in this awareness of I'm a soul. Baba gave that example that is often used in India. The parrot is sitting on the tap and is saying, don't sit on the tap, don't sit on the tap. And it's a real situation in the villages where there are parrots who speak and, they copy everything you tell them. So the person is telling them, don't say them on tap. And they don't, of course, they don't have the capacity to think about it. So they're just repeating the words. But at the end, if I haven't already become victorious, at that moment, I'll tell myself, I'm a soul, I'm not a body. I'm a soul, I'm not a body. But I won't have victory in that awareness. And so, of course, the danger, all the bondages of the body and everything associated with the world here will definitely pull me down. And it's the first time I've heard Baba give this example of the difference between Sri Krishna and Sri Rama in this particular way. That if you're still fighting with Maya, it's labor, it's laborious. The weight of the bow and arrow, it's heavy. And so you're carrying a burden. And then you're still having to fight and try and hit the target. And so it's labor all the time. But the symbol of Sri Krishna and the Sun dynasty, just a little flute. And what does the flute symbolize? Singing and dancing, music and love. And so why labor when you can just experience love instead? And so very clear example of the contrast between the Sun dynasty and the Moon dynasty. And also a lot of Baba's Murlis have been about experiencing attainment. And so here also, Baba's point, when you have attainment, because God is offering you everything, and so all you have to do is have the right awareness and take everything that God wants you to have, and you can be full. And then there's a state of fullness in my nature, in my sanskaras, and in relationships and connections. Which means that my eyes are not drawn anywhere to anyone or anything. Otherwise, if I'm not full, if there's something that's lacking in me, then what I'm going to do is to say, but this person is doing this. Well, I could have done it. I could have done it better. But why this person? Why not me? So this is where the soul has moved away from what Baba is offering. And then there's the greed, the desire, the distraction that others have and I want it. I could have taken it from Baba totally. And so the saying that Baba was using, it's usually a saying that expresses this idea of the fullness of the golden age. But here, Baba was saying, there is nothing that is unattainable, unavailable in the treasure store of a Brahmin. And so, beautiful statement for Brahmin life. If ever I feel I lack something, let me ask myself the question, why? Baba's offering that to me. Can I not stay in that awareness of being with Baba so that I can take what I need from Baba rather than eyeing what somebody else has? And Baba then further took up the whole aspect of what is purity. And yes, celibacy as a starter. And Baba mentioned that, yes, other people also have celibacy sometimes, depending on their situation and their life, different things. But your purity is the purity in which it's truly clean and there is honesty. The sign of purity is cleanliness and honesty. And that should then be revealing itself. I should be able to feel it myself, but others should also experience that from me. And again, where there's a state of discontent because I'm lacking, then, and the state of discontent will express itself as maybe worry, waste thoughts, anxiety, I'll say, but there's no sin that I'm committing, and there's nothing negative in what I've done. I haven't caused sorrow to anyone. I haven't given grief to anyone. But yet the fact that I've had waste thoughts, my time, my attention, my energy has gone in that direction. And of course, waste thoughts also change the atmosphere and reach others too. And waste thoughts very often then is not just in the mind, but it gets expressed in words also. And so that state in which then whatever I have, I'm going to lose that also because there's a drain on my energy. And of course, then the discontent is going to grow. And so even a few waste thoughts, and I move away from 16 celestial degrees to maybe 15 and a half or 15 or 14. So think about the moon and how there's the beauty of the moon when it is full and complete, 16 celestial degrees. And then gradually, as it reduces, you can see, you won't look up at the sky. And when the moon is only 80%, say, oh, isn't that gorgeous? But when you look up at the sky and the moon is complete, you say, hey, have a look at this. Isn't it a beautiful moon? So big difference between 16 celestial degrees and 15 or 14. And so can I reach that stage in which there's total cleanliness? And that means no waste thoughts, nothing negative whatsoever, of course, but not even waste, just pure, elevated, powerful thoughts. So that's the stage of purity that Baba would like us to enjoy. And again, Baba reminding us that it's something we have to experience now. Because if you wait till the end, then the problems of that time will be such that your attention will be drawn away from Baba and away from the soul and into just the problems that are around you at that moment. And so the soul loses out in a huge, huge way. And that state of cleanliness in which truly I've cleaned out my feelings, I've cleaned out my sanskars, and so that sparkle of purity is very much visible. You know, sometimes you can see how something is clean, like maybe a glass, it's clean. But when you've actually washed it to such a point that it sparkles, now that is what will attract your attention, not something that's just clean, but the sparkle. And so to be able to have that quality of cleanliness, that there's a sparkle of cleanliness. Now, 16 celestial degrees is that. And so the effort that I have to make today to really be able to put a total stop to waste thoughts and to practice this over a long period of time. Very often I'm asked the question, Baba says your final thoughts will lead you to your destination. So how come you've been making effort and then there's at that final moment, there's something that pulls you, and what happened to all the effort beforehand? But no, if there has been that effort beforehand to really keep track of where my awareness is going, what is it that's in my consciousness, then at the final moment, that will kick in. It won't be another distraction. But if through this period leading up to those final moments, and the final moments don't seem to be very far away at all, given all the conditions of the world that we read about and sometimes see for ourselves. If at this moment I'm not able to have that awareness of soul and consciousness of who I truly am and the work that I'm here to do, the service that I'm supposed to provide, then of course the final moment isn't a surprise. It isn't going to be God. It isn't going to be the angel that's able to help everyone around. And so Baba, a couple of times in this Murli, reminding us it's over a period of time that you've had victory, that you've been able to come to that stable awareness. How long can you hold that awareness of who you really are? A moment, just a fraction? Or are you able to stabilize it in that consciousness for a longer and longer and longer stretch of time? And if you can, that's it. Your future is guaranteed. You don't have to worry about, I wonder what's going to happen in my final moments. It's a given. And then, of course, Baba speaking to the big gathering. Again, they've had one big gathering already, and I think it was the second, and this might be the third. But within this big gathering, Baba saying that, yes, it's different. The numbers have grown, and so everything has changed. And now you have to line up in a queue to get your food. But of course, from 3,000 people to 10,000 people downstairs in a tent in Shantivan, of course, there's a difference. And the mothers being asked, are you tired? And Baba pointing out the positive side of that also. You like being in a big family, don't you? You're happy to see the big family. And so Baba refers to something that he knows is a problem, but Baba's showing us how to turn it around and to look at it from a very different perspective. And if you're happy seeing the big family, if you're standing in a queue, you're enjoying the fragrance of the big family, you're not troubled by anything. And so Baba making us aware that there'll always be something new. You want new things. And so enjoy adjusting to the newness of whatever is happening at this moment. And that's relevant to all of us at this moment also. You know, we never ever thought that there'd be quotas for going to Madhuban. And now there are, but the family is bigger and all sorts of other things are happening. Pandav Bhavan is being renovated. Gyan Sarovar, the rooms have been reduced because the number of sevadharis have increased, all sorts of things. So let me see what is the positive, what is the beauty of this scene, rather than get pulled by the memories of, well, it used to be like this, it's not like this anymore. So the whole thing is about the quality of my awareness so that I can be strong and powerful, and with that power, not allow Maya to even approach me and come at all. And a beautiful thing when Baba spoke to the Dadis, the fortress is only as strong as the weakest brick. One weak brick in a gathering and there's danger. And so any big program, any event that you're planning, has the whole family supported you with that idea, with their love and good wishes and support and cooperation? Because if there's anyone in the gathering who has any other thoughts, oh, it shouldn't be like this, it should have been like this, that weakness is going to allow other things to happen. But if the fortress of the gathering is strong with everyone's good wishes and support, success is guaranteed. And so everyone happy and content. And so a lovely Murli and Baba carrying us through different images, different examples, so that we come to that awareness of who we truly are. And we're able to hold that, not just it comes and it goes, but we're able to get there in a moment. It's not a struggle, it's not a battle trying to go beyond the consciousness of the body. And in that awareness, then, yes, I am there with Baba. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Sister Jayanti. When you were talking about contentment. They say that you can be either rich by having it all, or you can be rich by just being satisfied with everything you have. Because of course we cannot have everything. And really, we're always reminded of Dadi, that she was so simple, and yet she was the emperor. She had everything.
She would say that I'm the emperor with empty pockets.
She says she has no handbag.
Except the Hansa used to carry kilos of toli for her.
Exactly. So, gentlemen, regarding the bodiless stage, so there was a line in the Murli, Avyak Murli. Once you have the practice of being bodiless, you will instantly have the vibrations of the completion of time. Could you explain that, please?
In those final moments, I'm going to be detached from my body. Maybe I've already left the body, but that experience is something that I have to attain today. And that'll give me an idea of how far I am from my own destination. And of course, it's not just one individual. Baba often talks about how the whole gathering has to reach that point where things are going on. We're able to experience the bodiless stage and give support to whoever is around us and be able to fly home. So that's my understanding and interpretation.
And sorry, can you also just, I mean, I know we've taken it up, but today, what is your definition of bodiless stage, in essence?
Because Baba was talking about the eternal form, today I think Baba meant I'm able to be, I the soul, just detached from the body and the things here, and experience that world of light and be there. I think the angelic stage is different. The stage of bodiless, really away from all the physical senses and sensations of this world, and be there in that stage. And somebody in the retreat asked the question, well, I don't think I can get away from all the sounds and I get distracted. And so as we were discussing that, it became clear that, at the moment, we haven't left the body. We are still very much here in the physical dimension. And so to try and go home, it's a consciousness thing. It's not a physical reality. So yes, I will be able to hear if the door opens, but it won't be a distraction for me. It won't be an irritation for me. Sometimes if you're concentrating on something and the door keeps opening and shutting and you get irritated, who's coming? Why are they coming? All sorts of things. But in that bodiless stage, yes, I'm alive, I'm here, I haven't left, I haven't gone, but my awareness is now of I, the soul, in my home. But all the noise and confusion and chaos that's happening around me here, it won't impact me. I'll be able to experience my own form of the eternal light.
Nice, lovely. And perhaps this is a bit of a no-brainer, but gentlemen, this aspect of waste, and I'd like to hear your take on what is waste, because I think we're all succumbing to waste for one reason or another. And then the thought I was having is, even for us to think, okay, what am I going to eat? What am I going to do? How do you know how much of it is waste? I mean, can you elaborate a bit on your understanding of waste?
I need to plan. And so if I'm living on my own, I need to plan what I'm going to buy when I go shopping. Otherwise, I'll just get distracted and pick up things that later on I'll say, but I didn't really need all this stuff. So even to be simple, I need to plan. How much do I need? What is it that I need? And especially if I'm living in a center in which there's 4 people, 20 people, 40 people, it needs all the more attention to detail and planning. You know, when we had to cook for 1,700 people for the reopening, and refreshments for 1,800 people the next day, it took a fair bit of planning, as you can imagine. So when I need to plan something, I think about it, I do it, and that's it. But if I'm sitting here having a conversation with you and my mind is thinking, oh, is this what it should be? Maybe it shouldn't be sweet biscuits. Maybe it should be savory biscuits. Maybe. And I go down all sorts of avenues with that. Then that's total waste. At the moment of need, there's a subject I need to reflect on and plan for. I think about it, and our minds are clear, our intellects are clear. We come to a decision, and that's it. You know, we were planning the menu for, we have Rakhi program about 9 times, I think, in London. And we sat with, it was very good. One of the persons who's part of that team had the menus from last year. And so we looked at the menu and there were a few adjustments to be made. And everything took 20 minutes. I mean, a menu for 9 days, and it would be for a few hundred people. And then, of course, I was only involved that far. And then there are others who have to actually make sure that there's the stock, you know, all of this. And what's not in stock, you have to go and get. So it's very simple. If everybody has the same task and the same motive, and nobody's pushing my idea and that this is right and it has to be like this, things become very simple and very fast. You're doing what is needed, but there's no waste there. I mean, I've been in meetings about Rakhi menus, and if you've gone through this and then somebody says, but no, I had another thought about it, and we have a discussion about it. So it's not that it happened just like that. It's years of practice, but I'm just seeing how far we've come in the fact that it's a group that trusts each other and knows each other, and we know each one's capacity. You know, I can say make X, Y, Z, but they don't have the capacity because it's not enough hands, or something, or there's a particular dish I want, and I want it because I like it. And the team doesn't know, or at least hasn't had enough experience with that particular dish. This is one example, but you can see how in anything, you have to travel somewhere. And again, you know where you need to go, you know what the need is, and you plan it, and that's it. No need for any waste. And when you're doing something that is necessary, Baba doesn't say, don't think about it, don't plan it. It's, you know, it's a waste of time. No, Baba also says, yes, according to the need, whatever is necessary.
So could we elaborate on that a bit? So what about when somebody's under pressure and they have lots of jobs to do? And this is what I'm finding, gentlemen, where there's a few people, lots of things to do, people under pressure, they have to think and think fast and troubleshoot. What category of thoughts are they? I mean, on the one hand, I want to think I'm doing seva and trying to fulfill Baba's duty, trying to be good. But on the other hand, am I making mistakes with my thinking?
When I'm allowing things to overwhelm me, it's because I'm not very clear about what my priorities are. And I'm thinking about how relationships are important and the task is important. But if beforehand, not just at that moment of need, but beforehand, if I've developed a relationship of love and trust with a team, and it might be many teams, so I might have to do that with all the different teams. If I do that, then at that moment of need, we come together and we do what is needed. And so the task is important, but the relationship is more important. But the relationship, it's not that I tell them, oh, you're great at this moment, at that moment of need, but I've built up that relationship with them beforehand. And I know what are the priorities. I've thought about that. You know, there are things that can be done later on, but there are things that need attention now. So if I do the things that need attention now, then tomorrow I can deal with the other things. So to be able to have that clarity of discernment, to know what it is that is the priority now, and at other times when it's not high pressure, because there are periods, even if it's just a day between one thing and the other thing, there are periods when you're just building relationships and just making sure that others have what they need. And so they're happy and content. So it works then.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to today's Murli, Sakar Murli. We have a few questions on that from few souls. So Baba talks about the philosophy of action, neutral action, and sinful action. So Baba doesn't actually talk about positive action. Is it that positive is actually the normal, just action? That's the first question.
Positive action would be in that category of good karma because it's doing something that's good. The other action, which is just life and living, I think that's more the neutral karma. But you can see how at the present time, there's very little neutral karma. Again, food and shopping. I go shopping. And am I thinking about simplicity? Am I thinking about economy? Am I thinking about the whole family? Or am I thinking about what I like? Or am I thinking about this person who I'm attached to? Oh, they like this. So you can see that what is a very simple thing, just going shopping for food. And is it my ego? Is it my attachment? Is it my greed? What is the motivating force there? Or am I just simply doing it as Baba's instrument with the mantra of economy and simplicity?
Yes, so when Baba says philosophy of action, neutral action, sinful action, action, the first word action is actually positive, right? Like it's assumed that we should be doing positive action.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so next is some people seek help from healers and actually do get healed from incurable illnesses. Of course, some don't. So how can we explain this karmically?
The whole subject of illness is karma. I'll give you one example. Some years ago, I caught chickenpox from somebody, and they had, one dot here, one dot here, one spot here, one spot here. And me, I got covered with it. Absolutely every millimeter on every part of my face, my scalp, my body, everything. Now, what sort of karma was that? I wasn't inviting trouble. And this person certainly had no intention of giving it to me. And the way that it came to them was so mild. It didn't change them in their lifestyle or anything. And for me, I was in isolation for 2 weeks, and the troubles carried on for about a month after that. And the spots didn't go away for, I think, 2 or 3 months after that. And so when it's illness, you don't know what karma where. And so, yes, I'm lucky that I catch an illness and it goes quickly, and somebody else catches the same illness and it's quite a lot of pain that they have to endure with that. And so you can't say that which karma, I don't know. Sometimes you can say, I've been eating too much, or today I heard about somebody who just eats food and doesn't chew it and just swallows it. And they're having stomach problems. Well, that's my karma, because I know I should chew my food. And why aren't I chewing my food? It's, I can't say I don't have enough time. So what is it? I'm being careless, I'm being ignorant. They've been told about it, but they still ignore it. And so sometimes it's immediate karma that will lead to certain situations. Dehydration. Somebody got very sick when they were traveling to Oxford, not now, but a bit earlier. And I asked them, when I saw them, they were fine, but it had been a long journey for them. And they said it was dehydration. And in the long journey, they just hadn't been careful enough to make sure they were hydrated. And so that happens. So sometimes it's an immediate, this is the karma, this is the result. Okay, I learn a lesson. But other things come, who knows what karma it was. But yes, it's come. So how do I deal with it? So now my response, my reaction is then going to determine the future.
Gentlemen, is it true you went to South Africa when you had chickenpox?
I had just got out of chickenpox, so it wasn't infectious because I wasn't allowed out of my room until then, and I had to go to another place to be isolated. It wasn't in Baba Bhavan. There was no single room available, but I then had to go to Tennyson Road, which was fine, but there was a little room that was available. And then I went to South Africa and I still had the marks. This is why I say it took about 2-3 months for them to clear. And when I arrived there, by now I had a British passport, so that was great. I didn't have any trouble. I entered, even though I still had a brown skin and a skin that was not very proper. It wasn't as it should be. And there was a sister who I knew from London who was South African who'd called me. So she was there at the airport, and her eyes, when she saw me, you could see the shock. And I realized that I was going to have to be very soul conscious to the extent that anybody else wouldn't notice the spots, and they wouldn't get scared, and they would just see the soul. And so it was a very conscious practice and training in soul consciousness.
Yes, so that's why I was asking, because I remember you sharing this, and I've shared that times. That when you're conscious of something, but then you become soul conscious, others' vision is not drawn to that.
That's right. Yeah, it was practical proof of how soul consciousness can work.
Yeah. Okay, another question. If one feels ashamed to talk about God openly with family or friends, how to go about it? And how to introduce, if I'm feeling uncomfortable, how to introduce God, or is it necessary, not necessary?
It depends on my family. There are certain families where there's already an awareness of God, but maybe it's in the form of Christ, it could be in the form of Krishna, whatever it is. And I have to be very tactful in my approach, in that I can't just say, no, Christ isn't God, Krishna isn't God. I have to introduce that concept very gradually, that yes, God is the parent of the whole of humanity and not just of one portion of humanity, and so on and so on. And where there's a family that doesn't believe in God, and Northern Europe is full of many of these families, God was never part of the conversation. God just wasn't in the picture. Nobody went to a church or a temple or anywhere. And so in those situations, I think you first need to introduce very gradually subject of the mind, consciousness, awareness, and then come to the idea of a soul. And when they're aware of the subject of soul, then later you can start talking about the supreme soul. But if they're not even ready to accept soul, then the best is just to serve them through your virtues, your behavior, and they'll notice a difference in your behavior, hopefully. And that'll be the time for them to ask you, but what is it that you're doing that enabled you to kick this particular addiction? Maybe that's what it is. or change this particular habit so you're a much better person, a much nicer person than before. And so through that transformation, that'll plant the seed in their minds to ask the right questions, and you can then tell them further. And so you can't just suddenly bring up the subject of incorporeal God.
And gentlemen, would you like to say anything about what Baba said today about getting your daughters married? Just be a detached observer. How can you just be a detached observer?
Again, a story here, real story. A person who in London, but origin Bharat, but the daughters were born here. 2 daughters, and when they were little, they came to children's class, and by the time they were teenagers, they weren't interested. And then, of course, university and study, and they got occupied. And first, the elder daughter, she found somebody and said, I want to marry. And so the parents felt that, yes, it's her choice, her right. And she wasn't coming to class by then for a few years anyway. So it was clear that she wanted a different lifestyle. And they just gave her love and support and said, that's fine. But the father said, you've had a good education and you've been working for a while, you've got some money. And so is it okay if you pay for your own wedding so that I don't have to have that karma? And she understood, and she was very happy with that. And so it wasn't a big, grand, lavish Indian style wedding, but it was a simple wedding. And the parents, the father was happy, and they didn't have to get into trousseau and dowry or any of that. And the second daughter, more or less the same also. But in Bharat, when Baba's speaking the Murli, and even sometimes today, where the parents' duty is to make sure that the daughter in particular is settled for the future so that they're not having to worry about her and be responsible for her, then that's where Baba's saying, okay, get the daughter married. And of course, in those situations, probably the daughter wouldn't have the money to say, okay, I'll arrange my own wedding. And the parents are going to have to invest a good bit of their money in the wedding and all the trappings that go with all of that. So yes, it happens in India also. The father can't say, get out, I don't want to see you. But in Bharat, again, the direction for the son, you want to get married, that's fine, but do it under your own steam. And so I was clear about that in terms of karma. And the karma of daughter and parents is different to karma of son and parents. And with the daughter, it's the dowry. That's the big issue usually, and the payment for the wedding. And for the son is the inheritance. So that's how they've balanced it out in a sense since the Copper Age. Golden Age is different, but Copper Age, well, I have to give to the daughter and I have to give it now. And the son, he's going to get the inheritance and the property later on anyway. So cultural systems.
So sorry, but what is different about Golden Age?
In the Golden Age, the daughter also gets property. I'm sure it's never that it's only the son who gets property. And then things change in the Copper Age.
Okay, another highlight of the Golden Age.
I'm sure there has to be that equality.
Sure. So talking of Kumars, this question is from a Kumar. So he's saying that one of many relationships is the beloved or husband. So sometimes this is a bit of a challenge for brothers. Why is it that I have to see him as my husband and not as my wife?
Oh my goodness. Just an indication of the total body consciousness here. I'm sorry. But Baba asking you to be the bride is the challenge for you to be soul conscious and detached from the skin. And Baba telling sisters, it's a brotherhood. Again, it's a challenge. I have to come to the consciousness that I'm your brother and you are my brother. And so both have challenges. And Baba often talks about the world as a brotherhood. We're all brothers. But that renunciation of body consciousness allows that to happen. And the idea of bride, it comes in all the scriptures, every aspect of mysticism, the beloved, the bride. And so it's the signal that I need to be soul conscious. And it was sometimes beautiful to watch Jagdish Pai when he spoke about Baba's love. And truly you could feel, his face would melt and his eyes would become moist. And he was the bride. And he was very much, he was tall and strong. But you could see that experience of God's love as a bride of God was very clear for him. But that's because he had let go of the consciousness of this.
Beautiful, thank you. So this is an interesting question. I can't tell you where it's from, otherwise everybody will be going there. So the question is that there's some family and they're a little poor, and they've discovered in that area that there is gold under the ground. So is it okay for them to buy a metal detector and look for the gold, since they're poor and they need the money for their house, living, children?
I would say that's fine. And then just get enough that it doesn't make you greedy and want to get a bigger house, a bigger car, etc., etc. Yes, do what you want for your need. It would be just as, looking for a job and getting a good job so that then I can fulfill all my needs. But the danger is that it makes you become greedy. So just make sure you don't get greedy.
Right. Okay, so from this chat, a little long and complicated question. So if I could just simplify it, and it's probably pertinent to Bharat, but a sister who wants to surrender but sees situations happening in the center or in those centers in her zone, how would you inspire her to go beyond that, to surrender? And she's saying that junior sisters don't have as much clout as maybe the senior ones. So how to inspire her?
When I was going to surrender, there were lots of people chewing my ear and telling me that once you surrender, you have to listen to everybody. There's a clash of sanskars and it's going to be very difficult for you. So much better that you stay at home and then just help out in service to whatever extent you can. But my feeling of God's love was so powerful that I just wanted to surrender. I just wanted to be with Baba all the time. And I knew that living at home and doing as the other one had suggested was very different to what was in my heart. I was in love with God and I just wanted to be in God's home all the time. So you have to see, do I have that passion? Do I have that love that's going to help me go beyond all of these other things? And if I don't feel that love now, don't surrender, stay at home and do what you can. But if there's that powerful, powerful motivation of love, then you know that that love is going to protect you and you won't get caught up in the karmic accounts and sanskars of other people.
Nice, thank you. So here's a soul who's troubled by their past memories and experiences with some souls. And it's leading to unwanted negative thoughts, negative imagination. So what would be your advice to them to ease the mind, calm the mind?
If I'm still with that individual with whom there has been past memories of sorrow and whatever, it's worth having a conversation with them so that then I can hear their perspective of the same situation, because probably I'm carrying some memories and imagination has also been aiding that. But maybe there's a different aspect about their behavior that I hadn't known. And so it's worth trying that. But the other is where more often, and that's likely that I don't have contact with that person now, but those memories are still there. And what I've come to understand is that the more I let myself think about that, the more the karmic account of that situation and with that individual continues, even if it's in a subtle way of disturbance today. And when I learn to say that was drama, put a full stop to it, take the lessons learned from it, and move forward. Drama has moved on. That scene isn't going to happen till the next cycle. Why am I re-emerging that scene or those scenes again and again? I have to take power from Baba so that I can truly be the master of my thoughts and my feelings, so that then I can go beyond that. And the other thing that Baba often tells us about is, if your container is just still filled with the rubbish of the past, it's because you haven't kept it under the tap of churning new gyan. The more I practice the cycle, the more I practice churning the things from Baba's Murli. When I'm sitting quietly, I'm revising the Murli in my mind, or I'm actually reading the Murli again. And when I'm in action, I'm emerging 1 point, 2 points, 3 points that Baba had spoken today, this morning. And so I'm giving space to the stuff from the past because I'm not giving attention to refilling this container. If the dirty vessel is kept under the tap, then gradually the fresh water is going to replace all the other stuff in the container. And so I have to do that. That's the work I need to do.
Okay, just 2 quick questions. Baba always says that he will be revealed by the congregation. Could you give a bit more detail on this?
There have always been individuals who've been powerful and courageous and brave, and people will say they're the hero, they're the heroine, but there's never been a whole gathering in which there's purity, in which there's God's love and the feeling of God's power and presence. This is Baba's task. Only God can do this. So it's not one of us that's the instrument in that way. From 1, it came to 8. From 8, it's now gone on to 108. And from the 108, it's filtered through to the 16,000. And I think that everybody who's watching and listening, I think probably we fit within either the 108 or the 16,000 somewhere. And so give you an example. When people walk into the retreat center, the power of the gathering is so tangible. And it's not even that they're sitting in a class, but just the vibrations have, it's been 30 years. And yes, 5 years was other vibrations. So we needed to do a bit of cleanup with not just physical, but spiritual. But everybody who came to the retreat place and guests who were coming in, because everything carries on, nothing stops. So we had guests coming in and they would just remark on the atmosphere. You were there one day when, we had the guests from Nairobi or Kenya, somewhere in Kenya. And it was just about 4 or 5 of us who were there. But she remarked on the atmosphere. So it's not walls that create the atmosphere, it's the people. So it's the gathering, definitely. And this is why today, Baba talked about the Murli yesterday, Baba talking about how even one brick that's weak is going to create a weakness in the whole fortress. But this is the reminder from Baba that it's one family, it's one task, and whichever country we belong to, whichever center we belong to, that's totally secondary. But more important is that we belong to the Brahmin family.
Thanks, Jayanti. And just maybe a couple of lines on how to adopt our deity form.
just the Murli from yesterday, emerge it, practice it. Can I go to Paramdham in a moment and experience the sparkle and the light of the soul in Paramdham? And then I come down to the planet that's renewed and beautiful and refreshed. And I'm in my deity form, in which there's light shining through the face and the body. And let me practice having that awareness, not a body of gross matter, but just lightness, and emerge those qualities of purity and all the beauty of the virtues, the decoration of the virtues. Practice it, emerge it.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. So we'll have revision next week, and then we'll let you know after that. So look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. We'll have meditation now. And
Thank you. Thank you, Runaben. Thank you to everyone and all the technical teams.
Free to fly where spirit